Welcome back to Kuma English Listening Hub. In today's episode, we are stepping behind the camera and into a job most people never think about: film location scouting. When you watch a movie or a TV series, you probably remember the characters and the story. But think about the places you see on screen. A lonely house on a cliff, a crowded market, a quiet train platform, or a futuristic laboratory. Someone had to find all of those places in the real world. That someone is the location scout. For the next 10 minutes, you will walk through a typical project from the point of view of a professional location scout. We will explore how they search for places, negotiate with local people, and help transform everyday spaces into believable worlds for film. Let's open the notebook of a fictional location scout named Maya and follow her through one complete assignment. Scene 1. The first phone call Maya's work on a new project usually begins with a short but intense phone call from the film's director or producer. On this project, the director says, "We're shooting a mystery drama. I need a coastal town that feels nostalgic and slightly isolated. It should look like time moves more slowly there, but it can't be too far from a major airport. Oh, and we need a lighthouse. A real one." This is typical. Directors rarely say, "Find me this exact town." Instead, they describe a mood, an atmosphere, or a feeling. The job of the scout is to translate vague artistic language into concrete locations. Maya writes down keywords in her notebook: nostalgic, isolated, coast, lighthouse, near airport, quiet, not tropical, more like late autumn than summer. She also has to think about practical issues that the director has not mentioned yet. Are there hotels for the crew? Is there parking for large trucks? Are local permits easy or difficult to get? Is the regional weather predictable? In other words, she has to imagine both the poetry and the logistics of the place. Scene 2. Research without leaving the desk. Before she even books a flight, Maya spends hours doing research. She searches image databases, online maps, and local tourism websites. She reads travel blogs, checks train connections, and even looks at satellite images to understand the coastline. At this stage, the goal is to eliminate places that obviously will not work. A beautiful island might be perfect visually, but completely unrealistic in terms of transportation. A town could look charming online, but its streets might be too narrow for filming vehicles. Maya also calls local film commissions. These are offices that help productions work in a region. They often keep photo libraries of suitable locations and know which towns are already tired of filming and which ones are eager for visitors. After 2 days of intense research, she narrows her choices down to 3 countries and about 15 potential towns. Scene 3. The first scouting trip. Now it is time to travel. Location scouting looks glamorous from the outside. You fly to pretty places, stroll around with a camera, and take photos. But in reality, it is physically demanding and mentally intense. Maya wakes up early, often before sunrise, because natural light changes the feeling of a place. The same street can look warm and welcoming at 8 a.m. and cold and threatening at 4 p.m. She walks for hours. She climbs hills to see the town from above. She looks for interesting details: a rusted sign, a cracked window, an abandoned boat on the shore. She also listens. Does the town sound quiet enough to record dialogue? Is there constant traffic noise or loud construction? Every time she finds something promising, she takes a series of photos: a wide shot that shows the whole area, medium shots from different angles, close-up shots of textures, doorways, or corners, photos that show where the sun is at different times. She also takes notes about smells, sounds, and any possible problems. For example, beautiful lighthouse, however, constant wind, might affect microphones. By the end of the first day, she has taken hundreds of photos and walked more than 10 kilometers. Scene 4. Reading the script like an architect. Back at her hotel, Maya opens the script. She does not read it just as a story, but as a technical document. She marks every scene that takes place in the coastal town. Then she breaks down each scene. How many actors are in it? Is there a car chase or just a quiet conversation? Do they need to see the ocean in the background or only hear it? Does the scene happen at sunrise, in heavy rain, or in the middle of the night? A location is not just a pretty picture. It has to support the action of the story. For example, a narrow cliff path might be visually stunning, but if the scene requires emergency vehicles to be nearby, it might be rejected. At C1 level, notice the abstract thinking involved here. The scout must constantly reconcile artistic ambition with real-world limitations. This mental juggling is at the heart of the job. Scene 5. Showing the director the world through a lens. After a week of scouting, Maya returns home and prepares a presentation. She cannot simply send a folder with 2,000 photos. Instead, she curates a selection of images and organizes them into digital albums. For each potential town, she creates a visual story. Opening photos, the town from a distance to show its overall character. Street photos, to demonstrate texture and atmosphere. Key feature photos, the lighthouse, the pier, the main square. Practical photos, wide areas for equipment, nearby parking, possible base for the crew. She also adds short written descriptions, like a travel guide written for filmmakers. Town B, feels timeless. Stone houses, slightly worn but picturesque. Locals are friendly and curious. Town council said they are open to filming outside peak tourist season. During an online meeting, the director reacts in real time. Town A is too modern. Town C is visually perfect. But I'm worried it looks like a famous movie we all know. I don't want the audience to think of that film. Show me more of Town B. This is a subtle challenge. A location must feel fresh, not like a copy of another film. The scout's secret skill is to find places that feel familiar enough to be believable, but unique enough to be memorable. Scene 6. Negotiating with the real world. Once the director chooses a town, the romantic part is over and the political part begins. Maya has to contact local authorities, property owners, and sometimes even fishermen who use the pier every morning. She explains the project, answers worried questions, and tries to build trust. Some people imagine that filming will completely destroy their routine. Others imagine it will make them instantly rich. Maya has to gently correct both ideas. She might say things like, "We will need to close this street for 8 hours on 2 separate days. In exchange, the production will pay a fee and hire some local workers. We will also restore any damage to the road surface and repaint the markings afterwards. Or, we would like to use your cafe as the main location for several important scenes. We can keep your sign and your menu in the background, or we can change them for the story. We can discuss what makes you comfortable." Her role is part diplomat, part project manager. If she fails at this stage, the production might lose access to crucial locations at the last minute. Scene 7. Transforming spaces without breaking them. When filming finally begins, Maya remains on set as the location manager or works closely with the person who has that job. Now, the quiet town starts to transform. Trucks arrive with cameras, lighting, and props. Temporary cables run along the ground. Signs appear saying, "Set this way," or "Quiet, filming in progress." Local people are often surprised at how many people it takes to shoot a single scene. A simple 3-minute conversation on a bench might require dozens of crew members. However, from Maya's point of view, the most important rule is this. The town must look as if nobody was ever there when the shoot is over. She carefully tracks what the crew moves or changes. If they repaint a doorway, she records the original color and makes sure it is restored. If they temporarily remove a sign, she insists that it is put back correctly. The illusion on screen should leave no permanent scars in reality. Scene 8. When reality refuses to cooperate, no matter how carefully she has planned, there are always unexpected problems. One day, a heavy storm arrives. Even though the forecast promised clear skies, the director is disappointed because the scene was supposed to show a calm sunset. Maya quickly checks alternative locations for indoor scenes that can be shot instead. Meanwhile, she talks to the local port authority about extending their permit by 1 extra day. On another day, a neighbor decides to start noisy renovation work exactly when the cameras roll. Drills echo in every take. Maya walks over. explains the situation politely, and negotiates a temporary pause in the work. Sometimes this means compensating the neighbor for lost time. These situations require not only problem-solving skills, but also emotional intelligence. Location scouts cannot simply order people around. They have to persuade them. Scene 9. How locations shape the story. We often imagine that film locations are chosen to match a fixed story. But in practice, the relationship goes both ways. Sometimes a location actively changes the script. During one scouting trip, Maya finds an old, almost forgotten tunnel carved into the cliff. It is dark, slightly dangerous, and opens onto the sea. She sends a video of the tunnel to the director. A few days later, the director sends her a revised version of the script. A new scene has appeared in which the main character hides in that very tunnel during a storm, confronting his fears. In this way, the real world contributes ideas to the fictional world. The line between imagination and geography becomes blurred. For ESL learners at C1 level, this is an excellent example of how creative work is rarely linear. It is not simply write first, find locations later. Instead, it is a constant dialogue between the page and the place. Scene 10. The invisible credit. When the film is finally released, audiences might say things like, "I loved the small town setting. It felt so real. I wanted to visit it." They might search online for the locations or even plan a holiday there. Tourism boards love this effect and sometimes promote it as film-induced tourism. Yet most viewers have no idea who chose the town in the first place. They remember the actors and maybe the director, but rarely the location scout. This invisibility is part of the job. Success means that the locations feel natural, as if the story could only ever have happened there. If viewers start thinking, "Why are they in this place? It feels wrong," then the location scout has failed. Language focus. Useful vocabulary from today's episode. Before we finish, let's highlight some useful expressions from this story. Vague artistic language. Language that is not very precise, often used to describe feelings or moods. Logistics. The practical organization of complex operations such as transport, accommodation, or timing. To narrow something down. To reduce the number of possibilities. To curate. To select and organize items carefully, usually to tell a clear story or create a particular effect. To reconcile A and B. To find a way for two different or opposing things to exist together. To build trust. To create confidence between people, usually over time. Film-induced tourism. Tourism that is created or increased because people have seen a place in films or TV shows. As you listen again, try to notice how these expressions are used in context. You can also pause the audio and repeat key sentences aloud to practice natural rhythm and intonation. How you can use this episode for advanced listening practice. Here are a few ways to work with this audio to build your English skills at a C1 level. 1. Intensive listening. Choose one scene from this episode, for example. Scene 5, about the presentation to the director. Listen to it 3 times. First time, just follow the story. Second time, take notes on the process and the vocabulary used. Third time, pause after each sentence and shadow it. That means you repeat immediately, trying to match speed and intonation. 2. Note-taking practice. Listen to the entire episode again, but pretend you are the assistant to a location scout. Take notes on what your responsibilities would be at each stage. This will help you practice listening for specific information. 3. Discussion practice. Finally, use this question to start a conversation with a language partner or teacher. If a film crew wanted to shoot a movie in your city or town, which locations would you recommend and why? Try to use some of the vocabulary from this episode in your answer. Closing, you have just walked through the hidden world of film location scouting, from the first vague phone call to the final invisible credit. Next time you watch a movie, pay attention to the places in the background. Ask yourself, who found this street? Who persuaded the owners to let the crew in? Who made sure everything looked natural but worked technically? Behind every memorable scene, there is someone like Maya wandering through the real world with a camera, a notebook, and a very particular imagination. Thanks for listening to Kuma English Listening Hub. Keep exploring the stories behind everyday jobs, and you will keep expanding not only your vocabulary, but also your understanding of how the world works. See you in the next episode.